Now, if you're a big fan of horror games, let's take a look at all of the horror games coming to Nintendo Switch 2 in the future, plus one that's already been released. First up, we've got Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly Remake. Now, this is actually the second time the game's been remade. The first time it appeared on the Nintendo Wii back in 2012. It only come to Japan and Europe, so this is the first time since the original game it's going to come to America as well. Now, this is definitely a survival horror game with a twist. The story follows sisters Miyu and Mayu, and they're trapped in this ghost-filled village which has been cursed by a failed ritual which they're being forced to reenact. So you're playing as Miyu, and you're exploring this village trying to search for your sister while also fighting these ghosts. The twist is that you can defeat these enemies, these ghosts, by using your camera, and throughout the game you can upgrade it. Predominantly you do play the game in third person, but you do switch to first person when you do encounter these ghosts. Being set in Japan, it's got a very different look to a lot of the Western horror games. And the village that you do explore definitely has this eerie atmosphere to it. Now, the original game was praised, so I've got high hopes for the Switch 2 version here. If you're a big fan of games with multiple endings, you're in luck here because there is several. The original game wasn't the longest, so having multiple endings does encourage multiple playthroughs. Now, this version of the game does look very impressive from everything I've seen in the trailers. I'm very intrigued to see if anything is added to it to extend the runtime or make it slightly different for people that have played the original game. The original game was very scary as well, so if you are looking for something to fill that horror void in your life, maybe have a look at this one. You haven't got to wait long for this one. It's due out early 2026 on Nintendo Switch 2 and other consoles. Next up, we've got Reanimal. So it is actually being made by the developer of the first two Little Nightmare games, Tarsier Studios. So if you've ever played the Little Nightmare games, you should feel right at home with this one. And this one definitely seems to be following a similar path. It's a really creepy cinematic platformer. It's got elements of survival horror, stealth, and basically you're playing as two characters, either in single player or co-op. If you're playing single player, then the AI will take over for the second player. You've got to work together, exploring the islands, solving all of these puzzles, escaping from these crazy, creepy enemies. One thing I loved about Little Nightmare games was the creepy atmosphere. And it always introduced these really weird looking monsters that, well, let's be honest, they freak me out a bit. What really surprises me though is the developer has said they have taken inspiration from games like It Takes Two, which is another great co-op game, The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker. I'm not quite seeing that just yet, but hey, that's what they say. And Silent Hill 2. What sets this apart from the original Little Nightmare games, which were more 2D affairs? This has a camera that pans round into more 3D areas. I really feel that looks good. It separates it from those games and gives it this really awesome looking cinematic effect. Like I said, this game is full of this disturbing imagery, so it's definitely one that you should be playing with the lights out. It is set to release on the Nintendo Switch 2 in 2026. It is coming to other consoles as well. I definitely recommend keeping an eye on this one. Now, talking of Little Nightmares, we've got the third game in the series, Little Nightmares 3. Now, this is the first game in the series that isn't made by Tarsier Studios. They went off to do Reanimal, so they passed the development over to Supermassive Games, who you may know from making The Quarry, Until Dawn, and the Dark Picture anthology games. Now, if you've ever played those games, it's about making choices and whether characters live or die, so this is quite different for them. So again, Little Nightmares 3 appears to be taking elements from the original games. So this time round, it follows two brand new characters to the series, Lo and Alone, and they're going to be journeying through this nowhere, which is kind of like a nightmarish realm that can be accessed through sleeping. So what we've seen so far in the trailer, they're going through a big fairground area. Seems to be quite a lot of different areas here. And again, like the original games, it is full of these really weird enemies. And we've got this big world where the camera pans round, very cinematic. And there's a lot of platforming, a lot of puzzles. If you played the original games, you know what I'm talking about here. Now, what has changed with Little Nightmares 3 is it's no longer just single player. It is a 2-player game if you choose it to be, but the second player is controlled by AI if you don't have another friend to play along with. It does also support online mode as well, which is again great. Each of the characters do have different gameplay mechanics, so it's going to change things up depending on what character you play as. So everything I have seen in the trailers so far, I'm definitely intrigued to playing this one. If you like the first 2 games, I think it's a no-brainer that you're going to want to try this one out as well. It does look really good, really creepy. I'm really intrigued to see what other enemies they're going to add to the game, because the first couple of games already were disturbing enough as it was. So we don't actually have to wait too long for this one. It's coming out on the Switch 2 and Nintendo Switch along with other consoles on October the 10th. Now, if you're into your horror survival games, you definitely want to check out Kronos: The New Dawn. Now, this is developed by Team Blooper, the team behind Silent Hill 2 Remake, so if that piques your interest, listen on. Now, if you can imagine taking Dead Space, another survival horror game, and Silent Hill, this is pretty much what Kronos is. It looks really nice on the Switch too. Sure, it might not look as good as the other console versions, but Team Blooper has really pulled off their magic on the Nintendo Switch 2 version here. So you play as the Traveller, who's this agent that works for this organisation known as the Collective, and basically you need to survive this post-apocalyptic wasteland and find these points to travel back in time to Poland in the 1980s. And you've got to extract selected people that didn't survive this change, which was this big cataclysmic event that turned these humans into monsters, now known as orphans. Being a survival horror game, you've got puzzles, combines a lot of combat as well. There's a lot of different weapon variety here. You've got your pistols, shotguns, all of that good stuff. As I said earlier, if you like your survival horrors in the reigns of Silent Hill and Dead Space, I definitely feel this one is worth checking out. Again, the story isn't that original, but I wouldn't let that hold you back from trying it out. I really like what they've done with the visuals of the game, the sound as well, it's really atmospheric. There is multiple control methods as well on the Switch 2 version. You can use gyro controls, your standard dual sticks, so whatever way you want to play the game, you've got options there. Now, Kronos: The New Dawn is actually available to purchase right now, so if this game does look interesting to you, go check it out. Resident Evil 7 launched way back in 2017, and there was a cloud version available on the Switch, but if you wanted to play it natively, there wasn't an option to do that. Great news, Capcom is bringing that to the Switch too. Now, if you played any of the other Resident Evils before 7, they were all third person. This is first person for the first time in the series. You play as a new character, Ethan Winters, and the first person mode definitely makes the horror feel a bit more personal. The game takes place in the Baker family house, well, at least it does for the first part of the game, and you've got to explore this big house, avoiding the Baker family. You do not want to run into them. Unfortunately, you're going to at some point, but the horror element is definitely there. Capcom brought back the survival element, which some of the previous games kind of missed out on. You definitely need to conserve ammo, collect health, and there's a lot of puzzles that you need to figure out to progress through the game. Gone are the zombie type creatures you've seen in previous Resident Evils. We've got a lot of new enemies, the mold now, these black humanoid fungal creatures that you really want to avoid. It really is a creepy game as well. I love the atmosphere through this one. I remember when I first played this, there's some really big jump scares, just turning corners and monsters will appear. There's also some bosses that are downright disturbing. If you thought some of the enemies in previous Resident Evil games were disgusting, you ain't seen nothing yet. The original release did include a lot of DLC for this as well, so I'm really hoping Capcom brings that over to the Switch 2 version. I really hope they add in some alternative control methods as well. Resident Evil 7 is available to purchase on the 27th of February 2026. Now, if you like the look of Resident Evil 7, you are going to love Resident Evil Village. Now, this takes place after that game and you are still playing as Ethan Winters. The story of this is that you're trying to hunt down your kidnapped daughter in this mysterious village, again filled with mutant creatures, I definitely feel the variety of enemies in this game is a lot better. Plus the bosses, well, they're amazing, I'll just say that. Now when the game launched, it only featured a first person mode like the previous game, but Capcom did release a third person mode, so I hope they add this at launch to the Switch 2 version 2. The game is semi-open world this time round. The village is really the hub of the area and there's multiple paths going off to different parts of the game. You could be just wandering down a path, take a turn through a bush and come across a big boss fight. Completely optional of course, but it was things like this that made me really enjoy playing through the game. It does take a leaf out of Resident Evil 4's book. There is like an inventory system very similar to that where you have this briefcase and you can rearrange your weapons around. One of the best bits of Resident Evil 4 that was, so I'm really happy that Capcom did put it in this game as well. There is a heavy emphasis on collectibles throughout the game. Once you've found these, you can go to this guy called the Duke and he can sell you side dishes which give you certain advantages throughout the game, like decreasing the damage taken while you block. In my opinion, Resident Evil Village was a massive improvement over 7, and it did bring back some of the things that were missing from the past Resident Evil games into this too. Like 7, it was available on the Nintendo Switch as a cloud version, but here it is running native on the Switch 2. Again, I hope Capcom does include all of the DLC that was included in the original game, because there was quite a bit of it, and I'll be keeping my fingers crossed that we do get some alternate control schemes. One of my favourite things from Resident Evil 4 on the Wii was being able to use the Wiimote as a gun, so I really do hope they bring back some gyro capabilities to this version and 7 so that we could do the same. Resident Evil Village is also available on the 27th of February 2026. And finally, we've got another Resident Evil game. This is Recrim. So this is a brand new game in the series and it's also coming to Nintendo Switch 2 the day it does to other consoles. This time round it looks like we're going to be playing as a brand new character, FBI analyst Grace Ashcroft. And this time round it looks like we're going to get chased throughout the game by a monster not that dissimilar to Mr. X from Resident Evil 2. Capcom has announced that it's going to be first person and third person at launch, so we're going to get options there straight from the start. Apparently the story is set 30 years after Resident Evil 3, and it would appear Grace isn't as proficient as other Resident Evil characters in the past with combat. So I'm very intrigued how the game plays out there. Capcom have said this is going to be more of a closing chapter to a lot of the older Resident Evil characters, so I'm kind of expecting some of them to be playable. Maybe Leon S. Kennedy. From the trailer itself, the graphics do look really improved. The Switch 2 version, maybe not looking quite as good as the others, but we're talking portable hardware here. In motion, I've got to admit, it does look good. From the trailer itself, it looks like Grace can crouch, hide under tables, throw glass bottles to distract the monster. So I'm really intrigued how the whole stealth element is going to take place in this. I know there's been talk of a lot of changes with Resident Evil Recrim. Originally it started out as a multiplayer game or an open world game. So Capcom has settled on a more traditional single player game. And personally that's what I think Resident Evil should be. I really hope the scares are there. I really hope that disturbing monster element is still in the game too. But I think we're going to find some more information out in future trailers. Again, I hope we do get some alternate control methods for this game. This is definitely one to look out for if you are a big fan of the Resident Evil series, or survival horror games in general. Resident Evil Recrim also comes out on the 27th of February 2026. And that is all of the horror games currently coming to Nintendo Switch 2 in the future. I do hope we get to see some of those Resident Evil remakes as well that appeared on last gen consoles. I've got a feeling they'll come eventually. What horror games are you looking forward to from this list? Leave me some comments down below. Thanks for watching.